everyone. Welcome to Family STEAM Night. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to see people logging on and saying hi in the chat. Please feel free throughout the night to use the chat. Tell us where you're joining from. I'm also curious, what are some of your favorite animals? Or if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? These are trying to get us thinking about critters and getting curious with critters for tonight's STEAM event. My name is Julia. I'll be your host for the evening. I work with Scientific Adventures for Girls. If you're not familiar with what we do, Scientific Adventures for Girls is a nonprofit working to close the gender gap in science, technology, engineering, and math. So STEAM. We provide our STEM, the A is for art, which is an added bonus letter for tonight's Family STEAM Night. But we provide after-school STEM programming to girls and gender expansive youth in grades K through 6th. Our goal is to increase positive attitudes towards STEM and provide hands-on learning opportunities for students and encourage lifelong learning of STEM subjects. So even though our after-school programs are for girls, tonight's event is for everybody, and I'm super excited to have you all here and getting curious about critters. Our partners and collaborators for tonight's event are CuriOdyssey and Sandia National Laboratories. CuriOdyssey is a nonprofit science museum and zoo that lets kids loose to observe wild animals, experiment with scientific phenomena, and let the natural world answer their questions. The mission of CuriOdyssey is to inspire love for science and curiosity about the world to create a brighter future. So if you haven't visited them before, plan a family adventure to Coyote Point Recreation Area, one of San Mateo County's amazing parks, where you'll find sweeping bay views, picnic areas, and San Mateo County's zoo and science playground, CuriOdyssey. So yeah, big thank you to CuriOdyssey and everybody here today for being with us. Before we get started tonight, I have a couple of reminders for you all. So since this is a webinar, we can't see your faces or hear your voices, but we're super excited that you're attending, and you can use the chat function in the webinar to participate and share your ideas with the panelists and the rest of the attendees. This event, like all of our Family STEAM Nights, is going to be posted on YouTube in the next few days. So if you miss anything, or if you don't have the materials tonight, you can still follow along and use the video to try some of these activities on another day. If you have a question for one of our guests, you can use the Q&A feature and we'll do our best to answer those questions. And Joe from Scientific Adventures will be here monitoring the chat. So please participate, ask questions, say where you're from, say how you're feeling. I want to see the chat blowing up tonight. And during the event, we're going to be guiding kids in the audience through some exciting hands-on demos and some other fun activities. And in case you didn't receive a pre-made supply kit tonight, we're going to post any of the materials that you'll need in the chat right now. So you can look at the materials list and you can gather the stuff should be available around the house. We'll also be asking the adults in the audience tonight to participate in 3 different polls throughout the event. So please, adults, stick around, keep an eye out for the polls that we're going to ask you to fill out. If you did receive a Family Science Night kit in the mail, now is the time to grab it and get ready to follow along with your materials. So our Get Curious with Critters event is gonna last 1 hour. And at the end of the night, we're gonna be raffling off some super exciting prizes, but you have to be here at the end when we do the raffle in order to win. So make sure you stick around for the end of the event. So we're gonna send out our first poll to get us rolling. So adults, this is where we need you to help take the poll for you and your household members. And in the poll, you're gonna answer a few questions and let us know more about who you are and where you're joining us from. So the poll is gonna pop up on your screen, and we're gonna give you a couple of minutes to fill out all 3 questions for you and your family members. And when you're finished filling them out, just press submit. So yeah, this is our first poll. We're gonna have 2 more later on. So thank you for filling out the polls. And while we're waiting for people to do that, I'm curious, has anybody seen any bugs today? Tell me in the chat, like what kind of bugs you guys have been seeing. And where did you see the bugs? And oh, I see some bumblebees in the backyard. Oh, too many ants. What were the bugs doing? Somebody saw a roly-poly or a wasp? Somebody saw a bug crawling on their backpack. Cool. Okay, what about reptiles? Has anybody seen any reptiles recently? No? Well, if you, oh, somebody saw a lizard. Okay, well, if you haven't seen any reptiles recently, you are in luck because our friends over at CuriOdyssey have brought with them an animal ambassador tonight. So if everybody's done with the first poll, I'm going to pass it over to Jessa and Carmen from CuriOdyssey, who are going to introduce you to the animal ambassador.
All right, well, I just wanted to say a big welcome and thank you to Scientific Adventures for Girls for hosting this fun night of family science. We from CuriOdyssey are so happy to be here. And before we begin, let us know in the chat if you've been to CuriOdyssey before. We'd love to know. And with that, I'm gonna introduce you to my colleague Carmen, who is a CuriOdyssey educator and a scientist, who will be sharing an animal from her personal collection, but it is similar to a lot of our other specimens that we love and care for at CuriOdyssey, and help us share great information about wildlife biology and conservation with our visitors. So take it away, Carmen.
All right, good evening, everyone. I have a special friend here today. I'm going to introduce her briefly, and then I'll try to watch what questions tick by to make sure I'm letting you know what you're most interested in. So this is a milk snake, and milk snakes are part of the king snake family. This one in particular, her name is Puffin. I'm actually a bird biologist, in case you can't tell from the background, but I don't like pet birds, so I named her Puffin after the bird because she has all the same colors that you would find on the seabird, the puffin's beak. So that's how she got her name. Briefly, how I got her, she is rescued. So I've worked at science centers and community science centers for the past 14 years. And sometimes as a biologist, we get called upon to help with an animal that needs to be rescued, or in this case, an unwanted pet. So as a local wildlife biologist, I was contacted by a family that wasn't able to keep their animal, and that was how she came to live with me. So she's at least 17 years old, based on, I've actually had her my entire career. She's gone to graduate school with me. She has gone across the country and back with me. So just a little conservation message to remember is that pets and wild animals are a big responsibility. Wild animals do not make good pets. And if you aren't up for a pet that might be with you for 17 years or more, like this one, definitely spend some time appreciating the outdoors. And that way, all the wild animals are there and we can share them. So I'll go ahead and look through our chat to see what questions we have as she just gets comfortable in my hands. Ooh, you love the colors. Yes. Like Jessa mentioned, we do have different types of king snakes at CuriOdyssey. If you go to visit CuriOdyssey, our California mountain king snake has a very similar color pattern. And the California mountain king snake, if you're anywhere in the greater Bay Area or up in like the foothills, that's definitely a snake that will have this very similar pattern with a little bit of yellow on it, and that you can see out in the wild. Milk snakes are basically a pet version of the California king snake and other king snakes. Ooh, a question is it a girl or a boy? She is a female. And on snakes, they don't have outside body parts that tell you that. So because she went to a vet when she was very young, when she first became a pet, they were able to tell if she was a boy or a girl. And she is a girl. So that means I just have to watch out and keep her healthy, because sometimes female snakes can get eggs stuck in their body, even if they haven't been around a male. So I just always make sure that she looks healthy, she has a healthy weight, and that she's staying active. Yes, 17 years. So the funny thing about that question for 17 years, Google and other pet guides said that these types of snakes live 10 to 11 years. And clearly, at least with this sample size, that is not true all the time. But in science, nothing's ever true all the time. Anytime a biologist says ever, forever, always, never, they probably haven't seen it all. So that's definitely something I've learned being a wildlife biologist and also caring for my own animals. Ooh, another question I saw about venom. So I'll see if I can get her to coil a little bit more. King snakes are known for not being venomous, but being excellent constrictors, which means they have strong muscles all along their bodies, and they can use those strong muscles to squeeze. So right now she's squeezing my hand for security, because she likes to climb sometimes beyond her own abilities. So that keeps her secure. But if I were a mouse or a rat, a king snake like this would be coiling around and squeezing in order to suffocate their prey, the animal that they're trying to eat. So in this case, she knows that I'm definitely not a mouse. So she's not going to squeeze that hard, but that's how they eat and capture their prey. They don't have any venom to be able to do that. Ooh, a question about habitat. So king snakes in California, they're generalists. You can find them pretty much everywhere. So they're not really jungle animals or rainforest animals because we don't have those here in California. But places like grasslands, foothills, that's why I think sometimes she goes beyond her climbing abilities, because most king snakes are ground dwellers, or kind of like in hidden logs. But given the chance, she will try to climb up high, and she's not very good at it. So king snakes are generally not tree snakes, like a lot of the jungle animals that you might have studied from like South America or Central America. Awesome. So thinking about how snakes constrict and why she's constricting me, right now, sometimes she does that for security. And it's also because I'm pretty warm compared to her body. Snakes and all reptiles are what we call ectotherms. And that means their body can't make their own body heat. For us as mammals, we eat food. Most of that food turns into body heat for us, so we waste kind of a lot of the energy that we eat. For snakes, they can't do that. They can't make their own body heat from food. They actually need outside body heat to digest their food. So right now she's using me to get some body heat because she ate a couple of mice yesterday. And in getting all of that body heat, that means that snakes and other reptiles need to have some pretty interesting behaviors. By feeling with their skin, in this case, my snake's feeling with her skin, she can feel where there's a warm place, and she feels that that's with me. So that's why she's kind of going to stay here. But if she were a snake out in the wild, they would need to feel different surfaces, different air temperatures to find the safest place for them at that moment. So yeah, that's one of their interesting behaviors is they find cool places if they're at risk of dehydrating because it's too hot. And they find warm places when they need a place to digest their food or to heat up their body so that they can be really active and perhaps go out and find a territory, find a mate, find food themselves, or explore different parts of their habitat. Awesome. So I'm going to actually ask Julia, since the questions have been going by pretty fast, are you able to highlight any questions that I haven't got to yet?
Yeah, I saw somebody asking if snakes are allowed on airplanes.
I know where that
you-
question's coming from, but I'm going to answer it in a way you wouldn't expect. FedEx is currently the only way you can ship a pet reptile. And yeah, I know you're thinking about the movie, but if you're thinking for serious, thanks FedEx. They're the only ones.
Somebody else asked, what games do snakes like to play?
Ooh, some games, I'm going to kind of assume that you mean like fun, not like manipulating people's brains, because she definitely doesn't have Jedi mind trick powers. But as far as having fun, fun's kind of something that people do. And this has actually been an ongoing question of the CuriOdyssey educators is, can reptiles play? Because usually playing is pretty expensive behavior, you know. You can kind of be vulnerable to predators, things like that. But we have noticed that our personal snakes that we have pets and also the snakes at CuriOdyssey will kind of look like they get curious and they scratch their faces along some of the enrichments that we make them. So if we build them like a cardboard castle or like some little steps or a bridge, we feel like they're playing with it because that's not part of their survival. They don't have to be looking at it. So I don't think they play anything that we would call a game, but I think that they do things that make their body feel good, that make their mind feel good, that might not have to do with food, just like us.
Great. One more. Does she like cats?
Does she like cats? She's actually never lived with a cat before, but for a while when I was in school, she did live in a house with cats who didn't contact her, so she's used to that smell. And yeah, as far as I can tell, she really doesn't care about it. Really, the only smell she cares about is mouse.
Carmen, somebody had a great question about the an observation they were making about the about puffin flickering their tongue.
Yes, it's kind of funny that she does flick her tongue at virtual presentations. That's a smelling behavior. So all reptiles have a special organ on the top of their mouth, and their tongue can insert into that organ. It's called the Jacobson's organ, and that gives the scent molecules to a receptor that kind of translates it to their brain and lets them know what they're smelling. My guess as to why she in particular likes to try to smell virtual interactions is because it's confusing to her to see something new and to see sometimes other people in colors, but for them to not have a smell at all. So that's just something I've noticed in her over pandemic life is that she'll still smell a virtual program because she can see it. She can see what's happening. You know, snakes like this have about the same visual acuity as a human. So I think for her, it's just curious. And I don't know how to tell her that the people out there and the other panelists are real. They're just not actually smellable. Ooh, that kind of relates to, I see this other question, how smart is she? Snakes are animals that use their senses. So she relies on her sense of touch for heat. She relies on her sense of sight, and she relies on her sense of smell. Snakes actually don't have ears or eardrums, but she can feel vibrations. So that's how she can sense sound. So I guess it's also, I have my headset on so it doesn't confuse her to hear vibrations from Julia or from Jessa talking. She's not wondering if there are extra people in here. So as far as smart, she's really good at using her senses and probably a lot more in tune with her senses than some of us are as humans who can talk and ask questions. So I'll let you decide if that means a yes or a no. Awesome. So some of her adaptations that I want to just make sure we emphasize are that ectothermy, because that's going to relate to our next activity that we're going to do. As I said, puffin here and most other snakes kind of sense that through touch. They can feel it through their body just as much as we can put our hands on a hot or cold surface and feel what it's like. Some snakes that, or where it's dark, may have thermal sensing pits on the top of their lips. She doesn't have those, so she does it through sense of touch. But if an animal did have thermal sensing pits, then they're able to basically see a picture of heat. And we're going to kind of imagine with our next activity that we're reptiles, and we're going to build our little tool. Since we don't have heat sensing pits either in the tops of our lips, we're going to make kind of a little slime thermometer. And that's going to help us explore different places, just like snakes, like puffin, would have to explore different places to find where it's warm or cool enough in order to keep their body safe.
Great. Thank you so much for introducing us to Puffin. I'm really glad we got to meet this snake and learn more about what it's like to be a snake. And yeah, thank you everyone for all your great questions in the chat. The next thing we're going to do, as Carmen said, is to learn more about temperature sensing by making some thermochromic slime. And I'm super excited for this activity, so I'm going to be following along with you all and making my own slime. But I'll let Carmen lead the activity.
Awesome, friends. So I'm going to switch over to my secondary camera, and I'm going to briefly show, because I know there's some grown-up assistants out there. Thank you, grown-up assistants, for being available. I want to give you a heads up and sneak preview of the procedure. So that way, in case you all need to get anything set up, you can go ahead and get that. So for me, here's a little theater trick. I actually just put my warm water in a thermos. So grown-ups out there, if you want to grab a thermos or just your coffee mug to get your friends some warm water, that would be really helpful for this. You'll need a few different containers. I have my glue here already portioned out. My water is already portioned out, and my borax is also portioned out. And because we're doing this live, I already emptied out my color packet so that you don't see me aerosolize it on live video. So all those materials I have just spread out. It's a good idea, grown-ups or kids out there, to get yourself a tray or a plate or something to protect your surface, because you might spill a little bit during this activity as we mix all of the different things together. So that's just a little heads up for some parts of our procedure before we go into making our heat sensing slime. And in case anyone's wondering, could we do this with a thermometer? Well, yes, but that's a little bit less exciting, isn't it? If you do, and most people don't have a thermometer like this, an infrared thermometer that can read surfaces. So this slime is a really great tool that's just as flexible. You can put it different places and also learn about the temperatures around you. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to get our glue. And if yours is still in a bottle, you're going to want to get that out into a cup or a bowl, because we're going to need to mix it together with other stuff. So if yours is in a bowl, put it in a cup, something like that. And then we'll also need our warm water. Now, I know some friends may not have the activity kits, and you can't necessarily just go to the grocery store and buy color changing powder. That's totally okay. You'll end up with regular slime, and slime is a good conductor. That means it absorbs heat really easily and it gets cold really easily. You'll still be able to use your hand and feel your slime, even if you don't have the thermochromic powder today. So here's a funny quirk us educators discovered about the thermochromic powder. So if you need help opening your packet, I recommend putting it into a cup, so that way it doesn't spill. We don't know why. This is science yet to be explained. Some of the colors dissolve better if you add them to your water. Some of the colors dissolve better if you add them straight to your glue. So I recommend doing a little test. Put a little bit of your color into your glue, put a little bit of the color into your water, and just do a quick stir test. If it dissolves into your water, that's perfect. That's ideally what you want to have happen. But if it doesn't, we found this with some of the blue colors and some of the yellow and orangey colors do not like to dissolve in water for whatever reason, but that's okay. You can just put them in your glue. I'm using this kind of purplish, bluish burgundy today, and it works in either the glue or the water. So this one's not a good example of the ones that are finicky. This one's pretty flexible. And you can see my water is warm, so we already have a color change. I did not microwave my glue, although my coworker Romina likes to do that for fun sometimes. So we have cold glue and we have warm water, and you can see a little bit of the color change. Some of the powders go from one color to another color. Some of the colors go from just colorful to white or to clear, depending on what kind of glue you have. So whatever situation you're in, make it as bright as possible. I recommend just like dump your whole color packet into whichever thing you're mixing it in, because it will get a little bit dull colored as you mix the rest of the stuff together. So you want it as bright as possible. All right, so I know for some friends, you're probably still stirring. Sorry if your color is a little bit difficult, but if you got orange or red, which are beautiful colors, unfortunately, those are a little bit of the harder to stir ones. So just so that you can all see it, I'm gonna mix my colorful water solution and my glue in a larger container. And you wanna mix this up till it's completely uniform. So you don't wanna be able to find globby spots with glue, and you don't wanna be able to find watery spots that are just colorful liquid. You want all of it to basically look like a milky drink consistency. And in science, we would call this making a solution. A solution is when you have something that's nice and evenly mixed up. So if you like to make milkshakes, if you like to bake, if you like to make chocolate milk in the morning instead of regular milk, you are being a scientist, you're making a solution. And that's what we're doing here. But of course, don't taste this one. Most glue is plastic based, so that would not be really great for you to eat. All right, and if you're still stirring, that's totally fine. I'm actually gonna hand mine off screen so I can bring my other ingredient to the center to show you. If you have a lab assistant also next to you, you could have them keep stirring your glue and your water together while you stir this next step, or you can also have them stir this step for you. So that way you're making two ingredients at once. So your glue and your water, that's going to determine the color of your slime. So make sure as you're stirring that up, if you notice that the color is kind of clumpy or it's not mixed up, go ahead and kind of poke at that little color lump and get it all mixed in. All right, in a separate container, totally separate from your glue and from your water, you're gonna wanna get some warm water and your borax. Borax is something that, we put in laundry to help make things whiter. You can use it for cleaning. And it is a crystal. So because of that, we want to make sure that it gets stirred up and dissolves in that warm water. And you'll hear kind of a little scratchiness of the crystals. Keep stirring until all that scratchiness is gone. If you have a clear cup, you could lift it up to see that there are no more crystals in the bottom. If you want to use your sense of touch, we talked a lot about how animals use their sense of touch. You can touch it. It should feel slippery to you. Since borax is a base, it tends to be slippery. So if you have a kind of slippery, soapy feeling solution, you've got it. It's all mixed in. All right, friends. If you are catching up, now is a great time to keep catching up because these two ingredients, your borax solution and your glue, once we go on to the next step, it's kind of stuck in whatever that position is. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to put my glue solution and my borax here. And then I'm going to ask Julia to scan the chat for me to see if there are any clarifiers, because when we move on to the next step, that's where the sliminess happens and there's no going back from there.
Yeah, it looks like people are a little bit behind. So if you could just run through the steps from the beginning, maybe people can catch up.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share those steps, because what I have in front of me now is an example of what all of your steps should look like. Thanks all for being in the inadvertent 10-minute slime challenge to make sure that we also get to our second guests of the evening. All right, and Julia, were there any questions about any particular steps in the procedure?
I'm not sure. Yeah, did anybody have any questions about any particular steps? You can put it in the chat. Maybe people have their hands full with slime stirring. But if you're having trouble following along, you can always wait until we post the YouTube video, and then you can do it again. Oh, someone's saying their color didn't change. It may take a while. You'll have to have the temperature change a lot before a color change will show up.
Ooh, yeah, so a question about the color change is some of the color pigments are also more sensitive than others. With some of my slimes right now, I will let you know what's happening behind the scenes. There's actually slime sitting on Puffin the Snake's heater because my hands are not warm enough to make it color change. So I'll let you know. That's one of the behind the scenes cheats that's going on. So if your water wasn't warm enough and if your hands aren't warm enough, don't worry, you might not see it color change yet. Awesome. So it looks like some questions are just saying, I don't have the materials I'm watching yet. Okay, awesome. Ooh, some friends had very warm water, so they already got to see it change. Cool. All right, well, Julia, I want to be mindful of your time because I know there's another team that needs to go up next. So for folks who are still catching up, you can follow along on the screen share. For folks who are ready to go on, you can tune into the video side. And we are going to start with the slimy part. So if you have both of your ingredients, your watery borax solution and your colorful glue situation, now's the time to take either, if you have an eyedropper or a spoon, go ahead and take some of that borax solution and drop it straight in to the glue and water mixture. And if you use a spoon or a stick and swirl that around, hopefully you'll start to see it making this oozy kind of gluey texture that starts to look like slime, or at least a little bit more similar to the original glue that you got out of the water. If you're not seeing any change, this is the time for you to check. Did you really dissolve all those crystals in your borax? If you did start to see a change, great. You mixed up your borax solution perfectly and you're ready to move on and keep going. So you can actually start pouring a little bit at a time. You can either do it by the spoonful, the dropper full, or do a small pour. And you can stir a little bit more. And after you add each new bit of borax, I would recommend stirring it at least 5 or 10 times before you add more. So mine, I've stirred it a bunch, so I know that I need to add a little bit more. If you add too much borax, we get what we call rock hard slime. One of our exhibits folks, Jan, that's one of her funny goals, is she always tries to make a rock out of her slime. But most people actually prefer a softer slime. So I recommend adding it slowly unless you and Jan are collaborators in the biggest slime rock in the world, it won't impact how well it changes color. So if you really want a hard slime, you're welcome to just pour all the borax in there. And if not, I recommend doing it gradually like this, and you'll just start to get a bigger and bigger slimy blob. All right, and I know from my personal slime tastes, because for some reason science educators tend to have a personal slime taste. I know that on average, I need to add about 3/4 of the borax solution cup that I made. So I'm going to add a little bit faster because I know that's just what works for me. If you are also a slime expert, we know many young people are slime experts, and you know your ideal ratio. You're welcome to just add up to that point too. Ooh, another question. Yeah, so if your color pigment isn't mixed in, it's totally fine. But at this point where it's making the slime, where it's joining together as a polymer, the color might not join up with it. So you might just have some extra colored water left over at the end. And that's totally fine. And it's safe to go down the drain. And I'm curious to know, I think Giselle was the one who made the kits. What colors did you all give out to our participants?
Oh, we gave out a bunch of different colors. We gave out blues and greens and pinks and purples. Yeah, what color did everybody get? Green, pink, blue, awesome.
Ooh, I
One
see a
that
funny.
I got a blue slime.
I see a funny one on there, and I'm going to help you out. Friend who said, oh my gosh, why is my purple white? Remember, friends, some of the colored slimes turn to white or clear when they're warm. So if you added a bunch of color and you're like, oh gosh, it's just plain white, you actually, in your experiment, need to cool your slime off. If you added yours together, and I see lots of colors, purple, green, blue, pink, okay. If you still see a color, then to do your experiment, you're gonna need to get your slime warmer than it already is. So that's your hint. If it turned white, it's not broken, you didn't mess it up. You just have an experiment to go find a cooler place. If yours did stay the color it was supposed to be, then your challenge for your experiment is to see if you can find a warmer place. Awesome. So friends, you'll eventually get to this part where you have a big blob, and no matter how much you stir, none of this other liquid is combining with it. That's kind of always going to happen. There's kind of a limit as to how much it will mix in. So when you get to this stage, you're actually ready to start hand mixing your slime. Now, if you have a big enough bowl that your hands fit on in there, that's great. You can just kind of put your hands in and start squishing it around. And what will happen is your hands will help this last bit of moisture kind of get absorbed to the air, and that will evaporate out, and you'll end up with a much less sticky slime. So because I am still running the computer here with all of you, I actually have a stunt set of hands here. Don't worry, I don't have 4 hands. Here's my lab assistant, and he's actually gonna come in and do the slime kneading for me so that I can still click on the computer. So when you're at this stage with just the liquid, you're going to just take it out and put it into your hands. And then you're just going to squish it around kind of like it's a loaf of bread. And this is a really fun process. It's very calming, I think. And for friends with the thermochromic powder, it's also a really fun way to test, are your hands warm or are your hands cold? So We're doing it on a tray over here just so that you can see it better in the camera, but definitely don't dump it out like on your computer or your keyboard right now if that's what's in front of you. And then, just like Mike's doing right here, you're just going to squish it around and knead it with your hands, folding it over on itself. And eventually, your slime will become nice and shiny, and it will become a little bit less sticky. Because ideally, we're kind of looking for one that's stretchy. That's usually what most people like to feel in their hands, as opposed to something that just sticks on everything. Ooh, and as you can see, if you start to get some little air bubbles coming in there like that, that'll also help you dry out some of that stickiness. So definitely have fun with the air bubbles, making popping sounds. Friends who like fart sounds, you can do that too. And just have fun with it as you're kneading it up together. All right, friends, so we do have behind the scenes some of the slime that is color changed. So while my assistant is getting our slime kneaded, I'm actually going to go and find one that has partially color changed and partially stayed so that you can see what you might be able to expect if you explore your place like a reptile and find cool places and warm places.
How's everybody doing? Are people having fun with their slime?
All right.
Wow, somebody got their slime to change color by putting it over on top of a bowl of ice water.
Nice. Yeah, so you can think of some fun places if you don't have, you know, a snake's enclosure to borrow. You can see here one of our other educators made this blue slime, and this white part here was on Puffin's heater from her tank, and this blue part was just on the plain air. So you can see that with this light blue one, when it gets warm, it turns white or lighter blue. You can kind of see, I'll flip it over without the Ziploc bag label. It gets a lighter blue, and you can see that the colder it gets, the darker the blue becomes. So with all of your slimes, the color change might work a little bit differently, but as soon as you figure out what does mine look like warm and what does mine look like cold, you could put it into a bag like this. And when it's in this bag, you could take it and put it different places. You could put it in the sun, you could put it in the shade. If you have a reptile at home or a fish tank that's warmed, you could put it half on, half off. And I'm interested to know what other places you might have around to be able to experiment and see if you might be able to find warm and cool places like a reptile.
Can anybody think of a warm or cool place that might be a fun area to try to get the slime to change color? Freezer, outside, awesome. Great thinking. Yeah, you can put your slime in these places and see what happens. Okay, I think if everybody's okay and ready to take a break and play with their slime, it might be time for an intermission. So we're gonna take a short 4-minute break, and in that time, you can dance along to the song we're gonna play. You can take a stretch break, and we're gonna ask that the adults in the audience take this time to answer the next set of poll questions. So the poll is 3 questions long. You should be able to finish it up quickly and then enjoy the rest of the break.
Move your lion paws, roar. Move your monkey arms, swing. Move your eagle wings, fly. Move your head, hips and knees. And do the animal dance and freeze. Dance like a cheetah, run, run. Dance like a cheetah, run, run. Dance like a cheetah with me. Dance like a cheetah and freeze. Dance like an elephant, stomp, stomp. Dance like an elephant, stomp, stomp. Dance like an elephant with me. Dance like an elephant and freeze. Dance like a giraffe, stretch, stretch. Dance like a giraffe, stretch, stretch. Dance like a giraffe with me. Dance like a giraffe and freeze. Move your lion paws, roar. Move your monkey arms, swing. Move your eagle wings, fly. Move your head, hips and knees. And do the animal dance and freeze. Dance like a crocodile, chomp, chomp. Dance like a crocodile, chomp, chomp. Dance like a crocodile with me. Dance like a crocodile and freeze. Dance like a gorilla, thump, thump. Dance like a gorilla, thump, thump. Dance like a gorilla with me. Dance like a gorilla and freeze. Dance like a snake, slither, slither. Dance like a snake, slither, slither. Dance like a snake with me. Dance like a snake and freeze. Move your lion paws, roar. Move your monkey arms, swing. Move your eagle wings, fly. Move your head, hips and knees. And do the animal dance and freeze. Let's be.
Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed the intermission and got a chance to answer the poll questions. Thank you so much to our partners from CuriOdyssey for showing us the snake and making the color changing slime with us. Carmen, that was a really great presentation, and I really appreciate you sharing those activities with us. I had a ton of fun. I made some blue slime and I'm loving it. So if everybody's ready, I think we're ready to do our last activity. But before we start, I have a question for everybody. Have you ever seen a bug walking on water? Maybe you've seen these types of bugs floating on the surface of a pond or a lake. And have you ever wondered how they do it? How do they walk on the surface of water? Well, today we're gonna try to answer that question by making our own water bugs. So the materials that you're gonna need for this are 3 wires, which you should have in the kits if you got them mailed to you. And we'll also need a miniature pond. So that could be a cup or a bowl of water. And we're gonna float our bug on our miniature pond. So if you have googly eyes in your kit, you can try to attach the googly eyes once you get your bug floating, but we will deal with that once we have some floating bugs. So for now, all we need is 3 wires and a bowl or cup of water. And to start off, we're gonna line up our 3 wires. I'm gonna show it like this. We're gonna line up our 3 wires so that the ends are matching up. And then we're going to twist them together in the center. And the center where we're twisting together is going to be the body of our water bug. So make sure that you twist it enough so that the wires are going to stay together. And then you can start to pull apart the 3 wires on either side of the bug's body. And these are going to be our legs. So you can start to separate out 3 legs on either side, make 6 legs. Does anybody know what kind of bugs have 6 legs? Insects, that's right. Insects have 6 legs. So once we have our 6 legs and coming off of the center of the bug, we can start to shape the legs to make them look like a water bug. So they're going to go out from the center of the body, and then they're going to curve and then go out again, just like a little water bug. And the goal when we are shaping these is to make it so that when you put it down on a surface, all 6 of the legs are touching the surface at once. So my front leg is a little bit high. So I'm going to try to bend it down a little more. So if they all touch at once, that's going to help our bug float. And the other thing to keep in mind is to make sure that there's a long stretch of wire that is contacting the surface on the bottom. So we have these nice long little feet that our bug is going to walk on the surface with. So once you have a bug that you think is maybe a close enough shape, you can take a little mini pond. I've got this big tub of water here. And we can see if our bug floats. I got mine to float. Did anybody else? Anybody else get their bug to float? Yeah, somebody else did. What happens if you blow on it? Can you get your bug to move around on the surface? If you didn't get your bug to float, you can try changing the shape of the legs. You want to make sure that there's a long part of the wire because that's where the floating magic happens. Okay. Something else you can try if you have your bug floating is to see what happens if it starts to rain. You can take another cup of water and see if you can, my bug sank once the rain started. So what, if the bug is really heavy enough that it will sink in the water, then how could it float in the beginning? Okay, if you're having trouble making your bug float, you can try to reshape the legs so that all 6 are, you want all 6 of your legs to be touching, to be the same length and have a nice long stretch right around the same area so that there's a maximum surface area that your bug can use to float on top of the water. And it's okay if you don't get it right away. It might take a bunch of time for you to keep adjusting the legs, but that's how it goes. Sometimes it's a process of trial and error. But if you did get your bug to float, you can try to add eyes. Here's one with some eyes added. You can use an extra wire if you have 4 wires in your kit. You can use the 4th wire to tie the eyes on the top. So this one. Here's another water bug. So does anybody have any ideas about how this works? How are they floating? And why does the rain make them sink? Anybody think they know what's happening? Let's see, we can get another rainstorm. See if we can get it to sink again. Oh, that one sunk. Here it goes. Oh, it's sunk. What's happening? Surface tension breaks. Great, yeah, so the main force that's keeping these bugs floating is surface tension. So surface tension is a force that's created by the interaction of the water molecules in our pond with each other. So what happens is when some other object, like the legs of our bugs, comes and tries to enter the water, the attraction between the molecules comes together and creates a force to exclude our bugs from the water. And that creates, that surface tension creates enough force to keep the bug from sinking. But if the surface tension breaks by rain or something else disturbing the surface of the water, then the legs of the bug have a little entry point and the whole thing collapses and our bug is sinking at the bottom of the pond. So great. I hope everybody had a really fun time. I know I had fun making these bugs and getting them to float with you all. If we are ready, I think it's time for us to wrap up the night to launch our final set of poll questions and figure out our raffle prize winner. So we're going to put the last set of poll questions up on the screen for you. And you adults, please help us out by answering them. Scientific Adventures for Girls has been working hard throughout this year to host a variety of virtual family STEAM nights. And your feedback is super helpful for us to find ways to improve for future events. So we really appreciate you filling out these polls. And in the chat, you guys can share what was your favorite part of the night? What did you learn? What are you looking forward to for next family STEAM night? I also loved meeting Puffin the snake. Puffin was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Carmen, and everyone at CuriOdyssey for helping to make that happen. Yeah, it's been really great having you all here and participating in the chat. It's really fun seeing everybody get excited about bugs and snakes. And I hope you all had a really fun night. I know I loved it. I'm gonna love playing with my slime. I'm gonna try to get it to change color. I can't wait to put it in the backyard and see how hot I can get it. Okay, how is everybody doing? Are we ready to do the raffle? To see some awesome prizes? I'm really excited about the prizes. I think that the winners are gonna really be excited about them also. And if you don't win tonight, you can always try again for the raffle at next Family Science Night. So I think we're gonna get the raffle wheel going up pretty soon. Yeah, here we go. Kathy Doan, you're a winner. You get a prize. Okay, so if you are a winner, please send a private message in the Zoom chat to panelists only that has your name and email, and we will follow up with you after the event about how to collect your prize. So please, Kathy, share a private message for panelists only with your name and email. Scott Jensen, congratulations. Please share your name and email in a private message to the panelists only chat, and we will let you know how to collect your prize. The last winner tonight, oh, Scott Jensen already won. We'll do another one. The last winner tonight is Jeremy Martin. Congratulations. We've got 3 winners. Please share your name and email in the panelists only chat, and we will follow up with you about how to collect your prizes. Thank you everybody for coming and participating and learning with us. I hope you all had a wonderful time.